Welcome back to the Aussie Shed, ladies and gentlemen, for episode 9 in the 20-ton shop press rebuild and modification series. Alright, now you remember in the last episode we made the knob, yes, that knob, and we also set up the pressing foot and the adapters and everything to take the press pins and all that sort of stuff. Now, what we're going to move on to in this episode is setting up the cable winch system to raise and lower the pressing table. So let's have a bit of a look at what I've got so far, and I'll give you a few explanations of what I'm doing and where I'm heading. So on the top of the press here, folks, you can see this sort of a setup that I've got here, and basically what this is a 10mm bolt running through a grooved bearing with some spacers on it. So this is what I set up way back when I was welding stuff onto the press. So these are the bearings that I got. They're just a Chinese import thing, pretty cheap, nice groove in them. I figure they'll carry the cable really well. 10mm hole in the middle, perfect for a 10mm bolt, fit the bill for exactly what I want to do. So I just had some Gal 10mm bolts laying around the Aussie shed that happen to work really well in this situation. I've sort of trimmed the length on them and that so that they look pretty nice. But all this is here, folks, it's just 1/2-inch copper pipe that we use in houses here in Australia. It's just a standard sort of a 1/2-inch plumbing pipe, which over the years I've found works perfectly to make sleeves on 10mm bolts. It has an almost perfect 10mm inner diameter. So what I've done to locate these bearings where I want them without them sliding around, I've cut sleeves to locate the bearing exactly where I want it. Now, just get this guy back on. The bearings are all kind of slightly off center here and there to help guide the cable. Oh, there we go. Alright, as I was saying, the bearings are all slightly off center to help guide the cable to where I want it to run on the hand winch here. Now, as you can probably see here, this bearing is slightly that way, and the reason being is I want the cable to spool or to load onto this side of the sort of spool here. So I'm kind of guiding it to that side. And where we go over the top there, it's slightly less off center than the one on this side, and then it runs into another bearing on the other side, or down lower on the other side, which is dead center, and it is above the holes that I've got here, which is where the cable's going to run to lift this sucker up and down with. As you can see, there's another one set up here. This guy is for the cable to run this side, and it's slightly the other way. It's slightly that side, but you can see it's the same principle. 10mm bolt, 1/2-inch copper pipe, bearing in the center, running up to this guy. And then if we go down over the top onto this side, you can see the cable runs back across over here, down over this guy, down in behind here. There's another one, which then runs down onto here. So what all these guides do, folks, is they just keep the cable away from everything so that it's not going to rub on anything at all, and just sort of help it roll nice and easily. Honestly, you probably don't really need bearings. You could probably just, have some sort of a cylinder on there with a groove on it without even having a bearing in it, just because, it's not like this thing's constantly moved up and down while the press is working. It's something that is realistically very rarely moved. But as I mentioned earlier, these things are really cheap, and it just sort of works really well. So that's how I've sort of started to set that up, folks. There's also a bit of stuff that I have to do to this hand winch to make it really suitable for what I'm going to be using it for. First thing I've done is I've stripped off all the cable that came with it. This is the original sort of hook and cable combo. It's just, I think it's probably just a galvanized wire. It's a very coarse sort of a wind, and I don't really like it. So basically I'm replacing all the cable. And the main reason being, folks, is I do occasionally make up stainless wire handrails for people. So I actually keep really good quality stainless wire, and all the crimp-on fittings, and I have a crimper and everything to do it all with. So probably my main motivation for replacing this is honestly just because I have everything on hand that I can do it. If I didn't have the cable and all the crimps and all the stuff on hand, I'd probably find a way to make this work, and just get crimpers that I could use to sort of, replace these things with and all that sort of stuff. But as I say, folks, I'm just going to get rid of this because I do have some better stuff here. The other issue that I have with this winch mechanism is the size of the axle, or what would you call it? I guess you'd call it the axle of the winch pulley thing. Being so small, it's very hard to get cable to kind of roll up that small and particularly stay any kind of neat. And the reason they do that is so that they can fit, X amount of cable onto the spool, But it just ends up in a mess, and the cable, when you get it off here, it just wants to sort of curl and tangle because it's used to sitting so tight. It's just ridiculous. And whenever you buy any cable or anything like that, it's on a drum, and the center of the drum isn't the size of your finger. If the drum's kind of that round, well, it's probably only that round in the middle, and the wire only runs around the outside. That's just purely because that's how you keep the wire happy. And we want happy wire, folks. So what I've done, folks, is I've just made up a piece here, basically a bush on the mini lathe, that's going to increase the size of this axle that runs through here, and just give us a slightly larger area. I would have actually preferred to go something bigger. This is about 50 mil. I would have liked to have gone to 70 mil, but I don't have anything that size. I just happen to have a piece of aluminium here in this size, and I thought, well, that'll do, because basically a lot of the stuff that I'm doing here on this press, I'm just trying to make everything out of just bits and pieces that I have laying around in the shed, so it doesn't end up costing an arm and a leg to do this build, because as you can probably tell, I am already investing a certain amount of money into this thing, but due to the fact that I am a complete tight ass, I don't want to spend too much money on it. Anyway, so I've made this piece here up, folks, but the problem is now, how the bloody hell am I going to get it on there? Because this thing's welded together and has a bolt running through it. And I'll just get this apart. That's basically friggin' one piece. So how am I going to get it on? What I'm going to do, folks, is I'm going to cut this bastard of a thing in half. I'm just going to cut it right down through the center there, so that it's in two halves, and then I'm going to fit it onto the bush that I've made, and then I'm just going to drill and tap a couple of holes through either end and just kind of bolt it back together into the bush to keep it firm. I've machined this sort of center axle arbor size here, very neat and quite tight with the piece that I've made, so it should all fit together sort of quite well, I think. So bear with me, folks. I'll just go and cut this in half, and then we'll have a bit of a look at it again. And just like magic, folks, here it is. Let's take it over to the bench and have a bit of a look at what we're going to do with it. So here's our bush again, folks. So yeah, you can see this sort of a setup here. So basically, just, that one slides onto that side. This guy slides onto this side, and there you go. We now have a larger sort of axle in the middle to run the cable around. That's not just going to kind of destroy it as we start, going over that sort of section there. So I'm just going to drill and tap down through here and put 3 small bolts in through there, and that'll secure it back to being in one piece. And I'll also probably use this to anchor the cable. So let's do that, eh? Sorry folks, the battery went flat on me and I didn't even realise. I've just done a couple of other things here off camera now. Thanks battery. Just to sort of help with this thing, I've made a bit of a disc out of just a piece of aluminium. It's not sort of fixed in position, it can slide. It's a pretty tight fit, but you can sort of wiggle it and slide it along. I'm going to use that to keep both sides of the cabling separate, because I feel that if one gets over the top of the other, it's going to be a real problem, and this will just help keep them separate. As long as I wind enough on to get me to the centre on both sides, it should keep this disc right in the middle where I need it. And I've also created the passages to hold the cable in, so you can see there's a bit of a hole drilled in there. That's the size of the cable. There's another one down there. And there's a grub screw going in through the top that locks down onto where the cable is. So your cable just sort of pushes in there. I think that grub screw is in too far. Yeah, right, so your cable goes in like so. And then you just kind of wind the grub screw down on top of the cable. And the cable is very secure in there, folks. And yeah, so that's what I've done. So that's going to hold my cable when I start sort of setting up each side. So they're done now, so I can mount this, and I think it's pretty much going to be staying on there now. Hopefully I've got this right and I don't have anything backwards or anything. There's always a chance of that happening, folks, I tell you. Oh, hang on, I haven't got the sleeve in. See, there you go. Buggered that up straight away. There we go, that should be us. Hopefully. So I guess we'd better start setting up some cable. Pretty sure this one goes in here. Ooh. Oh. Just trying to work over the top of the camera, folks. Don't mind me, it's all good. Alrighty. Alright. This is going to be the fun part, folks, working out all the lengths and everything. Ah, yes. I see. I see. So this is going to be a little bit tricky, folks. I'll have to get both of them on there at the one time, which isn't really an issue, but I shall have a little bit of a fiddle, I think. Alright folks, I might come back in a second when I've got a little bit of progress here. I'm just basically going to be wrapping all this cable up. I'll give you a squiz once it's all looking a bit better. Sorry folks, I haven't been filming. It's one of those jobs where you need like 5 bloody pairs of hands. You can see that's me fitting there that I've got on the bottom of the new stainless cable there. I've just crimped that on. That's my little hydraulic crimper there, and this is a fitting that I'm going to use on the other side. I'm going to do the same thing, but this is an adjustable one, so you can wind this guy in and out to give adjustment, so I can actually balance the adjustment on the table there, because I have seen a few people do this, and apart from having the whole issue with the skinny axle and the bloody cable going crazy in the spool on the winch, I've noticed that they don't really have any way to adjust this. So if they sort of bugger it up and it's not exactly right, or particularly you may find that it's right when you're sort of at the bottom, but then when you wind it up to the top it's not bloody right. If you've got no way to adjust it, you're kind of screwed. So this is just a handrail adjuster, so that's what I'm going to use, and I reckon that'll get me exactly what I need. So I can't film crimping this on folks, but it's very simple. You just, hang on, let me just see if I can hold this and film. Alright, so there's the cable. You just slip that in the end of your fitting like so, like that. You can see that just sort of comes out. Let's see if we can tease it out. They just slide on real easy. Then you just use your crimping tool and just put a crimp in it, and it's bloody good to go. So I'm about to set up and do this on the other side folks, but like I say, I can't film it. I just need, there's nowhere I can set the camera, and you know, I just don't have enough hands. So I'll crimp this one on and then I'll show you the outcome at the end of it. So bear with me folks, apologies. Alright folks, I'm back and it's all worked out pretty good. Let's take a bit of a look at it. So that's our spool there folks. It turned out pretty good. I'm really glad I made this divider to keep both spools separate, you know, for each side, because it's hard enough just stopping the cable from rolling up on top of itself without having to worry about it going over the cable from the other side, which would happen. I've seen similar things with people trying to run 2 cables on one sort of spool, and mate, it always happens. One gets locked over the top of the other and it just turns into a big shit fight. But so far this seems to be working really well. I'll give her a bit of demo folks. I'll just wind it up and pull the pins out, and we'll just do a bit of a quick up and down. Alright, that gets it off the pins. Unclick. Alright. Not bad folks. Certainly beats bloody trying to move the stupid pressing table by hand. And then back up again. All works very well. Alright, I'll give you a demo from the front. It just works really good folks. I'm so happy with that. You just throw your pins in and friggin' drop it back down. Just like that folks. All in all folks, I think the winch and cable system for the pressing table is one of the best mods that you can do for your workshop press. Honestly, the thing that's probably, I was going to say the thing that's annoyed me most, but the thing that's really annoyed me most was the crossbar and the just wobbliness of the press originally. But Probably the next most annoying thing was trying to move the pressing table up and down when I was working on stuff, and having to fight and fumble with, you know, having press plates on there and having to take everything off, and then still bloody struggling trying to move the thing up and down by doing one pin on one side and one pin on the other side. It was just such a pain in the ass. So yes folks, I'm absolutely over the moon to have this press set up like this. As you can see, it's turning into a really, really beautiful bit of equipment from what was originally the most janky Chinese piece of crap ever. So once again folks, the time has come to leave this video here. There's still more going on, and you may find that hard to believe that there's even more I'm going to be doing to the press. And to find out what that is, you'll have to come back for the next video. So as always folks, thanks for stopping by the Aussie Shed. Bloody pleasure to have you here. If you like this video, remember to give it a thumbs up. If you like my content, subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment if you got any questions about anything, or you just want to give me some crap about something I've done. It's all bloody good. As always folks, I'll see yous on the next one. Cheers.